How do we measure the usefulness of a Christian's life or a Christian community? Is your church effective? All right. Next one. My animations here. Is it like jumping through hoops? Leviticus 22:31 says, "Therefore you shall keep my commandments and perform them." Does your work feel like a performance? I know yours doesn't, Bill. You're here all the time. Next one, health and wealth. Psalm 112, 1-3. Blessed the man who fears the Lord, for wealth and riches will be in his house. Really? Does that mean we're all going to be rich? I was out of work for 2 years, and I was never happier, and I was never in debt. Now, one of the things, and we'll talk about this also tomorrow, I put feet to my prayers. You're out of work. What do you do? Well, the one thing I did, I had to get rid of my car payment. I had to get rid of my house payment. And so I borrowed against my retirement and paid off my house and my car. Now, my wife was still working at the college. I made sure she wasn't going to get axed. I didn't know whether her job was in jeopardy. And, but she was better than me, so he kept her. But we never went without. Money, all of a sudden, money showed up when we needed it. And I started my own consulting business, and it was doing okay. It wasn't, burning up the roads. And then the youth minister left, and I was asked to fill in for him. I mean, that was just a little bit. And then I got unemployment. Woo! I went from 6 figures to $180 a month. I mean, a week. Wow. I mean, I was so blessed. But God never let us do without. The only caveat to that, no one told me that when I turned 60, that loan was going to be due. See what I borrowed against it? And so the year I turned 60, I got this $16,000 bill. And I showed it to my wife, and she goes, "What are we going to do?" And then I showed her our savings account. Guess how much we had in the savings account? The exact amount. She said, "That's going to wipe out our savings." I said, "So? God provided the money. He'll provide." Health and wealth. But God doesn't promise us that we're going to make $1,000 a month. Who is it? The crane company. I'm trying to think of their names. I know these guys because I'm going to be with them in a couple of weeks. There is a crane company. They give 90% of their profit to missions. This man has lived in the same house since he started the company. He's driving the same car. Just replaces the engine, but that's it. And he earns $1,000 a week. That's it. And Hobby Lobby, my wife calls it her mission field. They give 50% of their profits to missions. Can you imagine? But that's what they do. Free advertisement for them. Is it a burden? Psalm 55 says, cast onto the Lord. Zephaniah 1 and 2 says, make it a clean sweep. Malachi 1:1 says it is a burden. And Matthew 11:30, Jesus said, he makes it light, makes our load light. And so the comment is, Jesus takes our burden. The problem is we don't want to give it up. I have seen too many people. They have a problem. Here's my problem, Lord. Here, I'm giving it to you. But Lord, this is my problem. But it's yours. But no, really, it's my problem. Don't we do that? That's why I say, if you have a problem, put it on the screen, find the scriptures that apply to that, and then say, Lord, there's your word that addresses my problem. I'm leaving it up to you. Next one, it's a mystery. Going cross-eyed with that one. 1 Corinthians 2:7, but we speak a mystery of God, speak of wisdom of God as a mystery. I can't even talk anymore. And then the next one is one problem after another. I love that one. Romans 5:3, we glorify in tribulations, knowing that tribulations produces perseverance, and so on and so forth. Don't pray for patience. Because what God will do is he won't give you the patience. He'll put you in a situation where you have to be patient. If you haven't fallen into that yet, believe me, that's not where you want to be. Is it a race? We're measuring the results of being a Christian now. Acts 20:24, that I may finish my race with joy. I found it interesting when I had my heart attack back in February. I didn't know I was having a heart attack. I thought I had a bad chest cold. Everybody says, well, it's like having an elephant step on your chest. No, not for me. It was like a bad chest cold. And my wife, I walked in the house, I'm sweating like I'd just come out of a pool. And he knows, man, she goes, get in the car. And we're 2 blocks from the emergency room. And so by the time I got to the emergency room, all I could do was get out, stand up, and sit in a wheelchair, and they wheeled me in. And the doctor looks at me and goes, oh, you're having a heart attack. Really? No, it's really just a chest cold. And he goes, no, shut up. And so they put a patch here, and they put a patch here, and then they attached me to this monster machine. And I'm going, what is this? He says, well, this is just in case we lose you. We want to bring you back fast. And I said, it's a chest cold. He says, no, you got a heart attack. And so the next morning I go into surgery, and they go in here, 100% on my left main artery, 50% on my right main artery. They didn't do anything to the right. Medicare won't let them. It has to be over 50%. So, I'm probably still doodling over this side. But what's interesting is all the guys when I went to church a couple of weeks later, all the guys come up to me and said, what is it like? I said, what is what like? Having a near-death experience? I said, no, it was a chest cold. They go, no, really, you had a heart attack. We all heard. I said, yeah, I did. And I said, I was fine. I mean, I had 3 surgeons come to my room the day after the surgery. The third one gave me the wake-up call. He patted me on the foot, and he goes, "You realize you were critical?" I went, "Okay." He says, "No, really, we didn't think you were coming off the table." Oh, okay. Did I fight the good fight? Did I finish the race? Think about that. Then I started thinking about all the things that I would have missed if God had called me home. All the things that I had would be undone. I had set up months before a conference with missionaries the following Wednesday. I show up at the conference, and the guy's introducing me. He goes, "Straight from the ER." And everybody, it's like 100 people there. Everybody kind of looks at each other. When I get up, I tell them, "Yeah, I had a heart attack last week." And some guy goes, "And what are you doing here?" I said, "God saved me for a time such as this." And the same thing holds true for you. God saves us to run the race. And the question is, we're not at the end yet. What are you doing? Where are you at? Next one is it a competition? And certainly it's not. Remember Martha and Mary? Martha's yelling from the kitchen, "Lord, tell her to get in here and help me." Why? She finds it important to be at the foot of Jesus while you're working the kitchen. But also, Martha, if you know spiritual gifts, and I'm not going to be doing spiritual gifts, John may follow up with that. But if you know your spiritual gift, do it. My son has the spiritual gift of service. He's an usher at our church. But he also works grounds at an apartment complex. He's got a college degree. Why? He doesn't want to do paperwork. He doesn't want to be a supervisor. But when somebody from any one of the 190 apartments comes up and says, "Do you have a minute to talk?" He's got the gift of service. He's got a background in sociology and psychology, and he'll sit there and he knows his scripture. He's ministering in the workplace. My question again to you is, are you ready to minister as a workplace missionary? Then, is it about status? Luke 14 says, "For whoever exalts themselves will be abased, and he who humbles himself will be exalted." If you know your gift, you know your purpose, it's not about being a hot shot. It's about being available. And then last but not least, John 13, 1-17. True Christian living is ministering, helping one to another. It's being humble before each other. It's serving one another. It's praying for and with one another. And the scripture says this will make your life happy. When I was at the high school, students knew who I was and knew what I stood for. And they'd come up to me in the hallway and they'd say, "Mr. Boland, would you pray for me?" And I said, "Sure will." I put my hand on their shoulder and I'd start praying. Now, I didn't scream it out. I'd whisper in their ear. But what I loved, and it never stopped in all the years that I did that, other students would come along and put their hands on this kid. They didn't know what was going on, but they knew I was praying for that young person. And it gave them a sense of ability to do it. When I was a city manager, my employees knew who I was. They knew what I was about. And I had two doors. I had one at the front, one at the side. Now, the one at the front of my desk went into the main office where all the secretaries were, and most people would walk in and go that way. If I didn't want to meet with the person, I'd go this way. But my employees knew they could come in that way. So they'd knock on the door and they'd say, Mr. Boland, you got time to talk? And we'd sit and visit, and I'd pray for them. Or if I was out in the field, I would pray for them if they needed that. And I'd find out that we'd have a water or sirloin break, and my crews were out at 2 in the morning in the cold. I would show up with hot coffee and donuts at 2 in the morning. And they'd look at me and they'd go, "What are you doing?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I know there's no police officers here, but somebody needs hot coffee and a donut." And then I bought them windbreakers because it'd get windy and they come out of that water and they'd be freezing. They didn't go in the water if it was sewer break, I can assure you. But the water breaks, they had to get in to fix those units. But I was there for them. I had coffee with them every morning. Not all 80 employees in this one city were on duty at one time, but we would take over a coffee shop and I would visit with them. I knew who they were. I knew their wives' names. I knew how many kids they had, what grades their kids were, and I knew what the problems were. And I found it out because I was there. And I knew what the problems they were having personally, and I would pray for them in the coffee shop too. But it didn't bother me because that's where the need was. And that's what workplace evangelism is all about, is being available to meet the needs when the needs are there and looking for them.